And we'll get some paperwork. So I'll let you go, Matt, you start.
Okay, so we'll kind of start. I think we just did our introductions, which is great. I'm Matt Kittleton. And Associate Director Brandon there is here also. We are the consultants helping ODOT in the town work on their transportation system plan update. I think the only people that haven't been formally introduced is Devin and Melanie. So Devin, why don't you go first for President?
Right, I'm Devin Herring, work for the Oregon Department of Transportation. I'm agency project manager and also the admin contract manager. This funded through ODOT SBR funds. We saw the need in Lakeview. I think they were ready and we were ready, so we moved forward with this TSP. And it's going to be a huge improvement. If you haven't been involved in the project yet, this is a huge step beyond what you have now for a TSP. It helps drive some of the improvements that will suit the town well for the future.
Great, Melanie, why don't you give a quick introduction to it, Mike?
Hi, I'm Melanie Lashley. I work for the Lake County Commissioner's Office and I administer the funding for our special transportation program in Lake County.
Great, and I think also, I think we did everybody, I think Chris and Teresa are also on, haven't been introduced. So Chris, why don't you go first and then Teresa with Mike?
I'm Chris Jang with ODOT, I'm here in Bend. I'm the active transportation liaison, so I'll make sure all the projects have good bike and pedestrian coordination.
And Teresa.
Hi, Teresa Conley, ODOT, out of Bend. I'm the regional transit. I work closely with Melanie. And I haven't met you yet, but I turned on my camera so I can say hi. Working in the transit section here.
Great, well thanks everyone. And sorry for scheduling this meeting April 1st. I did it and then Miranda really told me everyone would think it was a joke. So I'm glad you guys came out past the jokes and you're here for a meeting today. So we're going to walk through what's sent around, but we'll spend a little time going through the details of what's in the solutions memo. And what that memo accomplishes is we've so far in the project gone through goals and objectives, evaluation, and documented what the needs are, gone out for community input, agency input, partner input on what we should be trying to solve and identify solutions for. And what the memo we'll talk about today is solutions that address those. And so it really is the fun part of the project, in my opinion, and probably most people's opinion, to identify what we should be planning for specific projects, and then a whole host of other things that we'll walk through as well. So with that, we'll get into it. We've done your introductions and a good sense of this. We do have a time set aside for feedback from the advisory committee, but our group is such that if you have something, just feel free to interrupt Miranda or I, or there's also a raise your hand feature if that works for you, as we go. So starting off, what are we doing here? So I gave an overview of what this project, what the impact on the project, and also we talked about this memo, but specifically we're looking at the street system, pedestrian system, transit system. Then we also have to include rail and air, which there's a little bit of applicability to those here, but you might see a couple of things that are a little funny in the TSP, and that's because TSP has to cover a broad range of elements, pipelines, those kind of things. So, but really we're focused a lot on these first couple in terms of making sure we have projects that help people get around better in town through a variety of modes, however people are choosing or able to utilize the transportation system. We start with the functional classification system and look at, does the roadway system as it's set up work, or do we see any changes that should exist? And as a reminder for people that haven't been involved yet or haven't had this is the functional classification system of Lakeview, and it's pretty easy to digest. The highways are arterial, so 395 and 140, those are the highest order streets. And then there's more or less a grid of collector streets that are intended to be the roads that people would most likely use to get around the neighborhood parts of the community or the business parts of the community. And the takeaway from this is that what exists today, we don't see and haven't heard any reason for anything to be classified differently. And what that would mean is a local street should it be upgraded to a collector? Is a collector maybe classified in a way that shouldn't be? And we don't see any of those changes, so that's what's proposed. Of course, if you feel differently or have a different suggestion, we'd love to hear it. But that's where, that's generally where we are with the functional classification system. That we think it works well and probably represents the way people get around very well. And then let me turn it over to Miranda to talk through a couple of these other pieces, starting with trade systems. Go ahead, Miranda.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, so as our materials, the state highways also serve as the designated freight routes within Lakeview. These are OHP designated freight routes. OHP is the Oregon Highway Plan. And they connect Lakeview with Southern and Central Oregon and also California. We've heard that the local system does periodically serve freight, but no specific freight routes, local freight routes are being recommended. Again, we're very open to suggestions, but that's kind of where we're at with that. And then the town will coordinate with ODOT and partner agencies on improvements needed to maintain and support regional and local connectivity for freight and the movement of goods and services. Next slide. Okay, so then looking at the street system beyond freight and functional classification, we looked at a variety of different transportation system changes, including intersection and street changes that covered intersection geometry, the monitoring for emergency access and employment growth, and then also a quarter safety study. Previous analyses found that intersections within the study area are expected to support growth within the urban growth boundary through the planning horizon, so no capacity related improvements are suggested. However, there are 4 intersections in Lakeview that could better serve people driving, walking, and biking if they were improved, if their geometry was improved. 3 of these intersections are on US 395 and identified on this map as 1, 2, and 3. So at Industrial Lane, Missouri Ave, and Oregon 140. And we'll show you some high-level sketches that we've come up with for this to be potentially incorporated into TSP. And then the 4th intersection is near Lakeview by the high school, which is number 7. And then the planning level cost estimate, we've estimated they range from $50,000 to $550,000 at each intersection. Beyond the GMS changes, the intersections were also identified on US 395 that should be monitored to support emergency access, which is, I think, 4 and 5. And then the third monitored intersection is 6, kind of at the southern end of the Wilson-Bennett at Catarabra, which I think is good pronounced, for employment growth. And then last but not least, the crash history for US 395 north of Oregon 140 in combination with an observed increase in multimodal traffic has led us to recommend a corridor safety and multimodal facility study to really determine what the best improvements are for the roadway, given that it's kind of, once you get out of town, it's kind of rural in nature, so we want to be able to support all modes of traffic in the urban growth boundary. So that's kind of an overview of the roadway projects that we've got going on. If you want to go to the next slide. Okay, this is a very simple concept, but this is the improvements that we've recommended for 395 and Industrial Lane. right now it's kind of, the intersection is kind of lacking in traffic control devices and delineation, and it also kind of has some excess pavement on industrial lane for the right turn movement. These characteristics can ultimately lead to driver confusion and longer crossing distances for people walking or biking. The planning level concept helps align industrial lane more perpendicular with US 395, reduce a little bit of the excess pavement, and then clearly communicate how people can safely navigate through the intersection. So for improvements would include things like intersection ahead warning signs on 395 and stop ahead warning sign and stop approaches on industrial lane, and then also some fog line and center line striping on industrial lane. Again, to give a sense of place at the intersection. Also, the town has told us that they have issues with southbound freight traffic on 395 swinging into the northbound lane when trying to make the right turn on industrial lane. And so this concept, being very edible, could be further refined to include something like a southbound right turn lane, or maybe the industrial lane is teed up even tighter, maybe requiring a little bit of the property on the northwest corner that's not in right of way. So this is the general idea for this intersection.
Can I got the slide deck. This is Michelle. What slide are you on?
11.
What's the time?
And did you, we can bring it to speed too if you
What?
can catch some of that.
Michelle.
Is it the one saying what are the solutions?
Yeah, and it's for you, it's a sketch on US 395 and industrial lane.
So intersection, what are the solutions? Intersection and street changes?
Next slide.
Okay, we're with you.
Okay, great. And now we're on to the next one.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Also, I think, if anyone has questions, feel free to interrupt me. I'll just keep updated. Okay, and then for the intersection of US 395, Missouri Ave and J Street, this intersection can be even more confusing because you've got 3 streets trying to connect at one intersection, kind of. So it's like similar to the industrial lane intersection, it's kind of lacking in clear traffic control devices and delineation, has excess pavement. When you get off 395, you actually, I think you have to stop going southbound, which can maybe potentially cause issues for traffic on 395. So the concept again, the idea is to remove conflict by having Missouri Ave connect directly into 395 and pulling J Street a little bit to the west, having it only connect into Missouri Ave. Similar to the industrial lane intersection, we've got stop line and center line striping and stop signs, stop bars, and could incorporate intersection warning signs also. I don't know if anyone wants to ask me about this, but again, feel free to interrupt, or Matt, you can also add things.
It looks, I like it looks good.
I can't take credit for creating it. But
You could have, we wouldn't have known the difference.
Okay, so the next intersection is US 395 and Oregon 140. This intersection is a key location for facilitating traffic on the highways, but also connecting people within town. It technically serves 5 approaches. It's kind of skewed, as you can see on 395. Has some unpredictable traffic control between 395 is the north and south controlled. The southern street, I actually don't remember the name of it, is also south controlled, and then the east street has some field control, so it can be kind of confusing if no one's familiar with the intersection. And then it only provide two clearly marked crossings with relatively long crossing distances. So this concept essentially is to provide a better delineation of the spaces of the intersection and how to travel through it, and also shorten crossing distances. I don't know if it's easy to see, but it's in the northeast corner, it holds the curb line, realigns that right turn that's on the other side of the island, and so maintain similar controls, provide stop control at the eastern street, and shorten distances for people walking. And so it does maintain all access to all 5 streets or 5 approaches.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little confused. Okay, so if I'm looking at the parking where you've drawn the new parking lines, and then you come to that little funky section by the island, are you saying should we close all of that off? So then if somebody were in that parking place, where would they have to go back all the way around? So if I'm coming up on the street, at the furthest on your right hand, if you're looking at the slide on the right hand side, if I go up there and I turn left into that parking lot, are you suggesting that if I back my car up and drive towards US 395, that's going to be completely shut off?
You can still get onto US 395. What I think would happen is that this island is removed, correct, Matt? The island is removed, the curb line is pulled out further, and you can only make a right turn on the 395.
Okay, that's
So if you are in that parking area and you wanted to get out, I just think I don't know that there's really any definite circulation that for the parking area itself, but it's a right turn onto 395. We can either continue west along 140 or go north, or should be able to turn left onto the southern street. You just can't. I don't think you're able to turn left onto 395 and go into downtown.
Yeah, and actually what it does, currently you have to go north on 395, right? Because you take that median.
right.
You're leaving the parking area going north. This actually would allow you to go west on 140 or turn, also end up north on 395 because you would exit onto 395 and you can go west or north. So you could actually make more movements leaving that parking lot
Okay,
than you'd be able to use it.
got it. Kevin has a question. Here it comes.
So is that, essentially it sounds like that island median thing would be removed then, if I'm understanding correctly.
Yeah, but what you see is the area that we're showing to the northeast of the island. That would be a much broader promenade area. We have essentially a pavement area there that can be used for a variety of different things. You'd have a much bigger patch of area to work with, and you use the big change that allows that to get rid of that right turn slip lane that exists today.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Okay, now that makes sense.
Yeah, I was super confused.
I was a bit confused, like, wait, what?
So what about
Hold on, there's another question coming.
so when you come from 395 north and you're gonna go straight across that intersection, there's also a little island right there in that section. Is that gonna disappear too?
You know, it may or may not. The thing about this is, obviously, at the end of the day, it's an ODOT intersection, so there's a lot of design details that we would need to work out if this becomes a project. But what we're trying to do at this stage is communicate a concept of an intersection that says, what kind of traffic control does it need to be? You know, the big question there is, do we need a traffic signal? Do we need a roundabout? Can we operate with generally like it is today? If the answer to that question from our analysis is that we don't need to install a traffic signal, we don't need to install a roundabout because we don't have the traffic conditions that would warrant those conditions. So what we're showing with this is a way that you can focus on the geometric issues that exist out there and shorten the distances, provide more clarity for drivers. And And that's what this concept represents. The next step to it would be ODOT and the town work together on a project that further refines this analysis and deals with some of the medians. There could be, again, because there could be some changes that would happen in the design process that would tweak some elements of this. What we're trying to show here is the concept of what that improvement might look like, and see if that's something that's supported by this group ultimately.
So let me see if I'm clear. That funky little teardrop kind of island would go away. Then there's another little funky island between the gas station
And the vacant lot.
and, does that go away too?
Potentially, I think we haven't given that a lot of thought. I think my hunch is that is there today because the intersection is so confusing and there's so many people going different places that there's a lot of, what we would say is there's a lot of conflict points for the person leaving that southern leg of the intersection.
Uh-huh.
So right now, it's just so that you know that you're right, because we don't really want you to figure out everything you have to do to go across.
People don't abide by that.
Perhaps we could conclude that we haven't gotten to this level of detail yet to say, actually simplify this enough that now is a movement we think people could make. That could be the case. We haven't determined that clearly or not yet, but I think that would be something that the design process would better clarify.
Got it.
Yeah, because people don't follow that.
Yes, people
They shoot
don't.
right across or go left.
That's a
Street
very
sign's optional.
highly problematic area, as you probably have guessed.
That's why they
But
call
we
it
found,
malfunction junction.
I'll let you get a little insight in traffic engineering. What we found is if you put, we give people what we call a film shop island like that, all it usually does is make people make wider turns. It actually kind of is the conflict point, because now instead of going straight across, they're just going around before they go across. So if this were to be redesigned, my expectation would be that if that movement would go away, it would happen a little bit more, with a little bit more tact, a little more elegantly. A median would actually prevent that movement from happening, as opposed to that little workshop island is there today. So there's lots to figure out on that line for the design process.
Just put in a stoplight and call it a day.
There used to be one there.
Figure that out.
Don't look at me like that, Tom.
I agree.
It's so complicated to begin with. I mean, and the answer isn't keep trying to make it more sophisticated. Sometimes the answer is to make it simpler, especially for out-of-towners. I think that's what Matt and the crew have done here. It's going to be a lot more intuitive for people moving through that intersection, just what the heck they're supposed to do.
Yeah. It looks like that. Plus we get a few more parking spots, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely the case.
It's gonna take away about 3 parking spots in front of the Mexican restaurant.
But then you get all these.
Right.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody?
And the Mexican restaurant could get stuff where they can do things in front of their restaurant too. Outdoor dining or some sort of patio thing.
Okay, we're with you. Ready? You got the con.
Great, well, hopefully that idea how it's, but Randy, we'll go to the next one.
Former intersection geometric solution. The South 8th Street is an offset intersection with South 3rd Street near Lakeview High School, and one of the characteristics that is pretty noticeable here is that it has a large sweeping curb line in the northwest corner. I think we've been informed that bus parking or drop off might be north of this area, so we'll have to clarify that and what the purpose is behind the large curb was. But it creates long crossing distances again for people, especially next to the high school with people biking or walking. And currently, it might be hard to see, but the current crosswalk is diagonal too, which probably that might cause some slight distance issues for drivers. And it also, this is a residential area and it's low speed. I don't know if you guys necessarily have issues with speeding in the area, but the sweeping turn can also, it allows people to take the corner much faster, which can be dangerous, especially again by school. So the planning level concept reduces the turn radius of the northwest corner to shorten the crossing distance and also keep drivers speed low. The extended northwest corner can be accomplished with a variety of techniques, whether you fill it in with concrete and build a ramp, or you fill it in with landscaping, or you can even use just something as simple as striping. So there's some options with that. And then future refinements, the concept should confirm where the preferred crossing locations are for both streets. Right now, it's technically proposing an additional crosswalk, the most easterly one, but that should be confirmed when actual design happens, and then also that the intersection can adequately accommodate the right design vehicle, whether that's like a school bus or I don't imagine trucks are coming through here, but you never know. But so, any questions or thoughts on this intersection?
Yep, here it comes.
Hi, this is Jeff with the Town Public Works, and I've been dealing with that intersection for a long time. It's really hard to get people that are coming from South 3rd Street, they're gonna turn left onto H. They wanna cut that corner, they wanna leave enough room for a person to be at the stop sign coming out onto 3rd, but they wanna cut that corner, leave 5 spaces and on the other side of them, so it's really confusing for pedestrians crossing. And I think even with this, if we came clear out there and did away with 20 feet of that taper on the corner, I think we're still gonna end up with an extra long crosswalk. I think it's still gonna be, 25 feet longer than a normal crosswalk. I was wondering about like a pedestrian refuge out there. An island might make more sense, and then people turning left would have to go on the other side of the island, and it would keep them separated from the pedestrians and keep them from turning actually into oncoming traffic, which a lot of times is school buses through there. It's kind of handy to have that extra width due to the fact that the school buses do pull up in there and turn right. But I don't know, maybe like a pedestrian island out there might get people coming from South 3rd going towards the east from the west to stay in their own lane of traffic rather than cut that corner and have the tendency to turn into oncoming traffic that are going on South H towards the south.
And I believe the school buses load on South H,
Yes, they do.
Mhm.
so
Sorry, we missed that last comment.
The school buses load on South H Street. Is what was said.
I think you should put real
Got
good
it.
crossing signs there.
Well, so this one, Jeff, if you could, I think I've tracked it along, but if you wouldn't mind, I think we have this drawn up in the memo. If you wouldn't mind, just kind of sketching an idea. I mean, certainly there's lots of options here. What we're trying to do with this one is prevent people from going fast through here in short distances. And there's a couple ways to do that. It sounds like what you're suggesting is leaving a channelized right turn lane if you're going south on 8th to go west on 3rd Street. And we could potentially do that, but we want to do it, be aware of managing speed and people going through there. So I think is that what you're saying? Generally, have that curve, but then channelize it so there's a shorter distance for people crossing, split up in a few stages.
Yeah, I can certainly sketch up what I had in mind.
Sure. Yeah, please do. We'd love to see it.
Okay.
I guess, I know we have some folks from the school district on and people that have been around. Do we think that, something needs to happen here in general, or is it, I think we talked about that last time, but I guess are we moving in the right direction with looking at it and improving here?
So here's the thing, a lot of kids, because every morning I drop my oldest off and it's 7, and you have kids out that early already. They are not watching for cars, they're just walking out in the street. They don't care if there's a crosswalk or whatever. They're cutting it crossway, they're going every which direction. And they're walking out in front of people, they literally don't pay attention. And you do have cars that drive too fast. So I don't know, this is a tricky one as far as I'm concerned because it's such a big intersection for a school crossing.
I think we have, Mr. Carter, are you still on the line? Maybe he's trying to find his mute button. Yeah, so maybe we should put like, railroad crossing guards down there. What do you think? Just kidding.
So again, I feel what we're trying to accomplish with this is highlight the fact that we need something, because that's the most important thing that the TSP is going to accomplish, because ultimately, what we're saying more than anything else is we need an improvement and we need funding. And adding a little bit of clarity as to what we're trying to accomplish with that improvement is what these sketches provide. But obviously, there's a lot of detail in terms of making sure the bus circulation works, and I think there's an opportunity to better clarify with stakeholders about, is there other pieces that should be changed in conjunction with this? So, because that's not to say we should not care about the details or we should ignore it. We definitely want to get as close as we can. But we're also not, at the planning level, there's room for adjustment as we move forward with this. But the takeaway here is, yeah, we want to do something. Yes, there's an issue. We don't want kids crossing this far. We want to slow people down. And here's a way we can move forward, and this would be helpful as the town and ODOT as a partner to help go after funding to make it improvements at this location. So that's big picture. That's, I think, what we're trying to do more than anything else. And as close as we can get at the planning level, the better for what we think is a meaningful solution.
May I ask if speed bumps are a non-solvable speeding solution? Are speed bumps used anymore, or is that?
Speed bumps make it really hard in the winter time for them to plow.
Ah, there you go. Is there anything that can be invented? Like
There's rumble strips.
rumble
And
strips?
they go in, but those are not a great long-term,
They're not either, okay.
yeah.
We're working in with ODOT to put the safe routes to school in down there.
Yes, yeah. I take that same route to people
One of the
speed.
things that is important for the town is more systemic treatment, meaning things you can just done over time. So I can move in and talk about that if you've had about some of the things we've included in the toolbox in the if you guys feel comfortable moving on to this intersection.
Yeah, we can move on.
Okay. Well, let me go through that. And so what we'll talk about next is some of those safety countermeasures. And there's various elements out there that we know are helpful tools, essentially in the toolbox that road departments or planning departments or engineering groups can use to accomplish some of the things we're thinking about, which is make the roads for safer for everyone that's using them, or potentially even slow people down. So included in the solution memo, and then also would be proposed to be included in the TSP, is some ideas that are useful starting places as you're talking about how to accomplish the things that you guys were just mentioning of how do we slow people down, what's the best tools out there. And what we did here is we tried to synthesize the best and greatest knowledge of what's most effective at accomplishing the tasks that we're discussing. So along the roadway segments itself, the things that help address speeds and then crashes is have speed feedback signs. you're going too fast, and it's feedback for people. So those can be effective, especially when they're located adjacent to actual speed signs, so that people get a notification of their speed relative to the speed they're supposed to be going. I don't know if enforcement activities would like to use those or not, but some towns use them where they move them around. Sometimes they are installed permanently. Then obviously more easy to understand things like moving away objects that people might hit when they're driving down the road, trees that are too close, or other blocks that are too close that might cause crashes. And then also consolidating or relocating. So that's not, again, rocket science, but it's just a reminder to folks that these are things that have an impact and an effect on how the system operates, because we're reducing the number of places that someone can enter a road, exit a road, cross a road, people walking along the road. So things to keep in mind as we're looking at it. And then a couple of these have been mentioned already, looking specifically at the pedestrian and bicycle system, looking at pedestrian refuge islands, which is a way to shorten the crossing distance that someone would have to cross. Those can be installed in conjunction with rectangular rapid flashing beacons, which is a fancy way of saying signs that flash and let people know that people are crossing. And what's particularly effective with those is that they are real-time feedback. And we used to put beacons or lights above an intersection that would just flash all day long, and the movie scene is you see those out in the middle of nowhere, right, where that's just a flashing light that everyone ignores because it's always flashing. So when you have a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, when someone's there, they push it and then it flashes like crazy. And so they actually have very effective tools at getting cars to yield to people crossing, and they're relatively inexpensive. They can be installed for significantly less than a traffic signal. They can be solar powered, things like that. And then also the concept of curb extensions, versions of that, which is another way of shortening crossing distance for people and making sure they're in the road as small amount of time as possible. Others on pedestrian bicycles, pedestrian scale lighting, meaning making sure everything is visible and helpful to the pedestrian environment. And some of the promenades that we were showing in the 395 140 would be an area that's something like that would make sense, or downtown. And then particular signage and beacons at pitch points along the road so that people know that cars are going to be entering, or bicycles could be entering the road or mixing with traffic. So anything and everything we can do to make people aware of the situation and the environment that they're coming up to. Specific to intersections, what we're showing here on the top, intersection countermeasures, signing and striping. This is the picture here of the stop signs with the notifications of the roads coming up. This is what a visualization of what Miranda was describing up at Industrial in Missouri is letting people know, hey, there's something that's going to happen soon. And we found, and the industry has found, that these are particularly effective in rural environments. And I think along that 395 section, this concept is the perfect application to let people know that something's coming, an intersection's coming, that they've been driving for a long time without any type of information. Raised dividers and stop approaches, everything that we can do to alert people that they have a reaction there that's going to be required of them as drivers. A couple other ones here, just more broadly, is obviously making sure that the intersections are well lit. Roundabouts, and even small scale roundabouts, are effective tools. There's roundabouts now that happen where the center island is mountable, and they can be installed in much smaller environments that can be useful not just for capacity, but for slowing people down, with providing left turn lanes.
So, and this is Michael Carter. I'm new to the tech community, so I apologize right up front, but I'm always concerned about roundabouts here because I notice, and that just might be me noticing, we have a lot of truck traffic, even with the big, even if it's a pickup truck with your livestock trailers, but that's just my observation, and I don't wanna interrupt the people who live here, so, I live here too, but, I'm still a novice, I'm still in dessert, I haven't got the main course yet.
He's correct.
No, it's a good point. And the thing about, well, first of all, there's none proposed, just as, make sure we're clear on that. 395 and 140 is probably the most obvious place that we could potentially see a need. We're not seeing locations where the capacity that a roundabout would provide is necessary within the Lakeview community, but they certainly can be designed to accommodate a whole host of trucks. Some incredible sized vehicles go through roundabouts. There's just one in Salt Sisters as an example where they have mega loads go through. So there's certainly design elements and treatments that can accommodate those things. And it's a tool to keep in mind in the right application. The way I like to look at it is roundabouts work in the right spot, but they're not the right tool in the wrong spot. So it's finding the right tool in the right place and just keeping in mind the options. And that's really the takeaway from this toolbox is reminding ourselves the options, so we're not just trying to apply the same tool everywhere we go. Looking at and reminding ourselves that we have choices and we want to find the right one. Speed management, I mentioned the street signs already. Signing can be an effective way at managing speed, letting people know when they need to slow down. And then gateway signage, and reminding people that they're entering a community is an effective way at reducing speeds. And ultimately what that's doing is telling people that the context of the road is changing and that they need to drive accordingly. So that's a really neat one for communities because often it's nice to note the place you're entering and it has an added benefit of making people react from a speed perspective as well. So moving on from the toolbox, and again, those are intended to be useful tools for the community to consider and discuss as things pop up that the plan hasn't specifically considered, which they certainly will. This is a long-range plan, and there's real-time issues that happen all the time. Also looking forward, we have a section in the solutions memo that talks about emerging technologies. What that is things that are changing pretty rapidly in the transportation industry, and things like thinking ahead on are we accommodating and providing for electric bikes and scooters? How can we accommodate things like electric vehicle charging, which is becoming an increasingly big deal, not just nationally, but there's a lot of state efforts to identify places where electric vehicle charging stations are needed, particularly in the rural communities and outside of major metropolitan areas where those facilities are less useful than they are, or less prevalent than they are in the more urban areas. This has the added, electric vehicle charging in particular has a real economic angle to it as well, where people will go with their electric vehicle to places they can charge it. And so having those available opens up the doors to additional travel, people coming through. Curbside management strategies we used to have to explain to people, but I think COVID has made it really clear that sometimes people use the curb to pick up things that they want and need, and that's an increasingly important area. So giving some foresight to how you use your curb. Is it parking? Is it flexible? Is it something that changes over time? And then intelligent transportation systems, which are a pretty broad area. Speed feedback signs can work into it. Can we provide weather information for people? And often this works, and there's a lot of partnership opportunities with ODOT and other folks to work on the systems that people need. So what this does is we try to outline and provide a vision for areas that the town can continue to explore and dive into in ways that help people move, but also can help the town think about the amenities that are important to provide residents and visitors that come through the community. So we just went through a lot. I will stop and see if there's any questions you guys have before we move on to that.
Information on those beacons.
There's a question about beacons, but from the mayor, but he's gotta talk louder.
Oh,
That's a
could you send us information on those beacons, price wise and everything? Because the school is wanting us to put one in, down by the high school where they cross the street, because, kids from elementary go to the high school and walk home with their older brother and sister a lot of times. And we gotta find some way to slow the traffic down through there.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chris, it's probably a good opportunity for you to jump in and talk about the way ODOT helps communities like Lakeview with that type of infrastructure. If I can put you on the spot for it.
Of course. Yeah, rectangular rapid flashing beacons are one of those things that is a pretty common tool we use along our facilities. And then in terms of helping communities with these, we have a number of grant programs, such as the Safe Route to School program, where you can apply as a school to get to our community to get funding for any of these roadway improvements, but especially things that help students cross the street. So if it's nearby a school, typically within a mile, so we try to focus on the quarter mile is generally best. Those are great ways that smaller communities, especially like Lakeview, can get the money for these, because a lot of these installations aren't the cheapest thing.
Yeah, we sure appreciate this. Michael Carter, and Superintendent, Lake County School 67, and thank you, Mayor, for bringing that up. Yeah, it's a pretty big, coming in, like I said, new to the area. It's a pretty big issue. Some of our kids are crossing, and it's not safe. So that really is a concern. So I'm glad that we have that vehicle. I'll probably be talking to you soon if that's okay.
Yeah, feel free to reach out to me. And if it's not included in this TSP process as well, we also have the Safe Routes to School planning grants, which can help develop a plan, identify where these routes to schools are and key cross locations are as well, and the appropriate treatments. So that gets you sort of one step closer to a lot of installations as well. So there is that funding pot. Thank you.
What about what they use for, like, when the train's crossing and we have to stop at those intersections? Like, when you hit the button,
Crossing guard?
the crossing guard. So if the kids hit the button to cross the road and the crossing guard starts flashing and it starts coming down slowly, it'll at least warn the cars that they're, that they need to make sure they're clear of that crossing. This way the kids can cross with that there across the road. It's just a thought. I don't know.
Yeah, is that with the RRFB, as you guys are going to be traffic engineers the other time, that's essentially what this is accomplishing. There's a lot of reasons I won't bore you with, like why we don't use crossing guards like a railroad in a different application. And you'd have to go to the National Committee in Washington D.C. and spend a lot of time working on that. But what we're trying to do is back to what you're describing is letting people know very clearly that they need to stop and go cross. And what Chris is describing is a really useful partnership for the town. And actually the thing that Miranda's going to talk about next is what is that pedestrian system and where can we focus our improvements. So I think it's a good segue if we're good with moving that and talk about what that pedestrian improvement system looks like. And I think this is really a pretty key part of the plan and an opportunity for the community to focus on what the plan is adopted. So now, Miranda, take it away with talking about the pedestrian system.
Okay. So sidewalks and smart crossings, as we've discussed, they help safely and efficiently transport people in town, especially those who are unable or choose not to drive. These facilities do exist in all parts of Lakeview, but most are located within the denser residential and commercial areas of town. And although it's town standard that all streets have sidewalks, funding their construction through the TSP rising it just isn't feasible. So for this reason, we identified a grid of priority sidewalk corridors, which are highlighted in orange and just into orange on this map, and then also included key crossings, which should be orange dots. And this grid of sidewalk corridor also emphasizes 3rd, H, and I streets as the highest priority within this grid for sidewalk infill. These priority routes essentially establish a network between schools, residences, and businesses And they also do provide parallel routes to state highway systems. So we've, included this in our survey to the public about the projects that we're looking at. And so if you guys have any other corridors you think need to be included into the priority network, we're all ears. So this is where we're at with that.
And let me ask the question of the crossing that you were just talking about. Do we have that listed on here? I wasn't tracking exactly where it was located. But I guess the question is, do we need another dot to know where we want a crossing improvement that the mayor was just describing?
He wants to know if they need to include an additional priority of the crossing that you and Mr. Carter have
Yes.
concerns about. Where is it?
It's
Yeah,
on
right in
High
front of the
Street.
high school office. Yes,
No, I
That's on
thought that was the
South
elementary.
Third. That's on South Third, that would be
yeah,
west of
west of
High Street.
Yeah.
HI, yeah.
It's not actually at an intersection, it's a crosswalk in front of the high school.
So it's a
The elementary school, isn't it?
You're talking about the high school,
I'm talking about the high school.
right into the office.
Oh, yeah, it's not at an intersection, it's just that
South Third, that's
crosswalk.
gonna be- That's gonna be
On South
west,
Third.
about 100 feet west of the High Street intersection on South
Yeah.
Third.
So if you keep going down South Third Street to the high school, there's a crosswalk that is right in front of the school, like the entryway. And, that's the crosswalk the mayor's making reference to, because the little kids come from the elementary school to meet their older brother or sister, and they cross that crosswalk and nobody actually, they cross everywhere. It's a free-for-all. And you got parents picking up and backing in and backing out, and kids jutting out in front of the school in that crosswalk, and it's hard to see with cars. Hopefully you can find that on the map.
I think I've located it. It looks like it goes right, it's just west of I Street, it goes right into the school entrance,
Right.
Yep,
the sidewalk.
You got that? Yep, that's right.
That's the issue right there, nice call.
Cause it's right, I can see it going right in between parking and.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's here every day, 3 times a day.
Then it needs to be here, so that's critical coverage. We'll get that added on to this list.
Thank you.
I got myself really bad.
Mr. Carter, do you have anywhere else that's problematic that you're seeing 3 times a day?
Well, I'm still trying to figure out the 80 Hay and Fremont, flow traffic, and the mayor and I spent some time talking about that as well. I know the city, the town has been working on that for years. So I think that's still an issue, but we're working on it. But the one you just brought up is really the one that's concerning me right now, because I know that the town was able to put stop signs in that people are getting used to it, so it is making it a little better.
Okay.
Well, Ray will move on to the bicycle network, but definitely this is not a speak now of everyone's reviews. We have, but we do want to get input on this relatively quickly, but we're moving on with the project. It's important.
Well, I might as well get one more subject that you brought up. We are doing a daycare now over on F Street. So it used to be a daycare before, so it's not marked here now. So that's a new thing coming, and that's a partnership with the town of Lakeview and the school district. So it used to be a daycare. It's over on F Street, and now we're going to be doing that for a preschool daycare as well. So that's something you might want to look at.
the flashing lights are still down there.
Sure.
I believe there's flashing lights down there already or prior to getting to the school.
Yeah, the lights are prior, so what we might do is move the lights down,
Okay,
make it longer, And the other option is that, where those corners that, that they wanna maybe put down school zone, main school zone on the street,
On the highway.
cause that's gonna be people who are gonna turn in there a lot to pick up their kids.
Noted.
And that's on, could you, make sure, Michelle, that you send me that, location?
I will.
About
I
that.
think it's 618 South Ave.
I will.
Sorry, I forgot that, I apologize, but I'm a little older, but it didn't come to me, I got my two cells back together, so thank you.
This started, there's certain, there's certain elements of a school zone, I know people are familiar with when those can and can't be applied, particularly, if it's on the highway. There's requirements associated with it, but I think there's noting it here is, again, a good starting place to make sure that when there's funding available for people like Chris, that we have it noted and then go after something that can help make that situation better.
And then I was just gonna jump in here and make another pitch for the Safe Route to School program, something to think about in the city. In terms of helping get funding, sidewalk infill around schools is often one of those big projects that happens to get funded to Safe Route to School a lot. So it's just a consideration when you see those big numbers there.
So Chris,
That's one of those programs that can help pay for that.
so I'm completely ready to get on to the Safe Routes to School. I've just been waiting for the grant to open. But my question is, when I apply for that, is there $500,000 to take care of our crossing and the enhancements that are outlined on this TSP?
Yes, the Safe Route to School program will fund projects up to $2 million in grant funding. So there is a local match associated between 20 and 40% there. But yeah, we can definitely get all the way to there, and I'd be glad to help you with that application. The latest round just went out, so it probably won't reopen for another year and a half or so. But feel free to reach out to me, I'd be glad to help.
Okay, I'm gonna be calling you every day. I'm just kidding. I won't, but I'll call you. Thank you.
Okay, well, let's keep going. We're at the next slide.
Okay. So moving on to the bicycle system in Lakeview, very people who ride bikes share the road with motorists along most of the streets within town. This is consistent with town standards, especially given that you have relatively low volume and low speed streets. But most streets don't necessarily provide clear wayfinding for people that are riding bikes, things such as like route signage and pavement markings. So it's recommended that the streets that are highlighted in blue are designated as local bikeways within entry Lakeview. These designations may provide opportunities to improve pavement condition, enhance the roadway with wayfinding treatments, as I mentioned, and also help establish a bicycle network. It's also recommended that public or private opportunities to provide bicycle parking in your activity centers and commercial areas should be pursued. And the design of bikeways along state highways would likely lean on guidance from ODOT's new Blueprint for Urban Design publication, and then specifically the multimodal improvements for US 395 to North will ultimately be identified through the proposed corridor study that we mentioned earlier. So any thoughts or questions, and if there's any corridors that should be added as a bikeway, we're also hearing that. And I should also note that the green is indicating where existing bike lanes are today.
This is Chris again, it's probably an omission on my part, but there is the Oregon Scenic Bikeway that runs north along Roberta and then turns left on Missouri. So that should probably definitely be highlighted as a priority route.
I think we actually already heard something about that on the survey, our survey. So, okay, so I got Oregon Scenic Bikeway along Roberta and then Missouri.
Correct.
Thank you.
Tom, did we get everything?
Yeah, it's like most of our streets are low volume enough that I don't see it being a big issue sharing. Our streets are not wide enough to stripe a bike lane on it enough from beyond what's there. Those stripes haven't been renewed in God knows how long.
Okay,
Sharrows are probably our best option for paint marking. And I've personally never been in a position where a layer of paint has brought me any additional safety.
thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Matt.
Okay, we'll keep going. We also have worked closely with the folks here with the transit solution, Melanie and others, and Teresa have given us some great feedback on making sure that the TSP reflects the best and greatest thinking about where the transit system is going within Lakeview. And obviously there's a couple providers that help make that system go. And so above all else, we want to make sure we're continuing the existing service that exists today, improving the service within the community as much as we can, including providing weekend service, improved coordination, which is really important in a lot of places, but especially when you have multiple providers, to make sure that people have the easiest access to the resources available to them, which can oftentimes require coordination amongst multiple providers that can only do so much with the funding and resources they have individually. So looking at that system as holistically as possible is important. For making sure people are aware of the resources that are available to them, and then important for a lot of communities, but especially ones that are more isolated, like Lakeview, is providing connections to other communities, whether it be for shopping or medical trips or things like that. So these bullet points are big and require a lot of coordination, but helping get those down clarifies where the system's going, but then also make sure that that these needs are identified and get available for people to reference as they go after additional funding grants to move forward. So Teresa or anyone else, Melanie, I see you on here, is there anything you want to add or put an emphasis from the transit perspective?
We're almost done with our coordination system. I hope that will be live at the end of this month, hopefully. We're working with someone that's been fantastic, and so hopefully we'll have the right coordinated between the two agencies, and it'll be easier for people to connect, right?
That's great.
And this is Teresa. I'd like to actually put Linda on the spot from the Senior Center and see what your thoughts are about transit over the next 20 years. So that's a long horizon to think about. Utilizing all this STIP funding and what was learned from the first round of STIP, what you might see for the 20-year horizon.
What I'm
Like,
seeing,
would you still be doing the Lakai run? Would you still be doing
Right.
the Alturas run? Would you reallocate funds to different types of services?
we do have a lot of inquiries for a Reno connection, which is through the Sage stage in Alturas. They are, because of COVID, are no longer offering that at this time. They are going to be any minute now. They said they're going to be opening that up, and they just need drivers. They're looking at recruiting some drivers for that route. We're trying to determine why our local shopping trips are not being taken advantage of. We have about 3 or 4 people that continually use our Thursday shopping. We'll take you anywhere you want in Lakeview, whenever. And we just have the same couple of people using it. And we don't know what kind of promotion that would take we have tried going through promotions with the vendors, with different companies saying, you can get a 10% discount if you arrive on the bus, and then we will, help fund that. And different promotion stuff just isn't working. We're trying to get the word out as far as calling us, and it lasts for about a month. People will call, and I have an attorney appointment, I need to get to the bank, and it's kind of, which we're right now in that, boom, bang, and then it will die off. They forget about us again. And because of I think the age demographics of the area, more and more elderly people are not getting media news. They're depending on their neighbor, they're depending on their son. So it'd be, I don't know quite how to reach them. We send things to Aspen Court, and of course we've got the gardens covered, but just the regular folks are not using our services. We've got a lot of people in Paisley, we have people in Plush and Adel. Nobody from Plush and Adel uses us at all. We've been to the stores, we put up flyers. I don't know if it's pride, if they don't want to use public transportation. We have not determined why there hasn't been more enthusiasm. We did think of possibly doing a fixed route. Tuesday mornings, we go to Adel and we'll take you into town. But we haven't had much interest in that either. We tried it and there was nobody there to go. So, any solutions, any kind of publicity that we can get, we are available to transport people. Medical, we've got covered really well. It's the shopping that I just don't understand why people don't do it. We go to Klamath once a month. We could do it every other day if we had the people, but we cannot even get 3 people. The last 3 months we've gone once because we had 3 people that would go to Klamath, and it's a fun trip. You can do whatever you want. We'll take you wherever you want for as long as you want. Everybody has lunch. And nobody wants to go. So, I don't know, Teresa, the town is not embracing it, and I don't really know why. We're available. We are here to serve, and people aren't taking advantage of it, other than the few that know about it and really grasp it and trust us. And I think we have it's got to be close to 100% success on getting people to appointments on time, getting them home on time, and definitely 100% on safety. Everybody gets back where we get them. So that's a good thing. But we're thinking about that right now. Teresa, we're trying to think of if there was a fixed route, if people knew if they could stand at the corner of H and 3rd, and we would pick them up every day at 2 o'clock and take them to Safeway, or pick the key days like Friday, the sale on Friday or Sunday even. But we have not had the response that we'd hoped to. So, weekend service, we have not been asked for weekend service at all that I know of. We've never denied weekend service, but I don't see that there's been a need for that either. So anyway, I guess that's all I've got. If you have any questions, happy to answer them.
I wonder if something like a regular scheduled shopper shuttle, I think you were doing that, right, Linda?
We are, yep, we are.
It was regular to go around town at the same time so people could theoretically just get on it?
No, we don't have that route because of the diversity of the people and you've got all the way from West Side, which we have no riders from West Side, and that's always a surprise too. And then the smaller communities. We would be happy to set up a route, and that's something we thought about, and people could stand out there and wait. In the summer, it would be hot without shelter. In the winter, it would be freezing without shelter. So you'd have to have at least a 5-10 minute variance, unlike a train, it may not be exactly on time. But we have definitely thought about that. And we could try it, we could definitely try it. But right now they could go anytime, any place, and it's not working out. So, don't know. Besides advertising, we just have to get people knowing that we are here to do it. COVID hasn't helped at all, of course, but.
Well, it seems like with what you're describing, the bullet here that we list, you could maybe expand on a little bit with education and awareness is a big emphasis and point, particularly around the types of trips. And that, Brandon, that might be a note that we add, with the knowing that you guys agree that, we want to make people be aware of transit, but also why they can use transit and how it's available to them.
Right, North County is another place that, of course, we serve. And we have a shopping route every Wednesday that goes to Lapine, and you can go anywhere you want. It begins about 8 in the morning pickup, and then you get back about 2 or 3 or however long the riders are who determines that. And we have 4 people that go every Wednesday, and that's it. And there's food boxes that they pick up. We can incorporate the food box thing too. People who can't get in to get their food box, we're happy to bring them in on Thursdays to the, where Mike gives away the food. We're happy to do that as well, and we haven't had response with that either. So I think our frustration right now is because of, we're very busy with medical, and because of the COVID having our hands tied, we right now are not having more than 1 person in a bus, unless it's our real big bus, where we used to be able to put 3 and 4 people in, but we can't get the spacing. So that's the other thing that has happened. Not that we've denied any rides, we just haven't been able to, have a fixed route where we'll pick up 10 people, to go somewhere, right at this time anyway.
Well, thanks for that perspective. That's useful. I think it's something we definitely want to make sure that that is the focus area and what we want to capture. If there's any other longer term things, like Teresa was mentioning, feel free to send those along, and we can make sure. I know there's probably more work that's going to happen on this over the years, and with a coordinated plan updates, and that can be reflected there. And then also, as mentioned in the TSP, it's just helpful to get it noted and documented to know where this important system is going as well. So we have a couple minutes left. I'll move on if that's okay with folks. And we're near the end of slide. You've heard feedback throughout, which is great. Best way to do it. Is there anything we missed though that people want to share that we haven't talked about, anything you've read or things we haven't shared, and what you think we're important to discuss with the group?
Yeah,
From a feedback perspective,
Matt,
you have.
Matt,
Sorry, go ahead.
there's one, here it comes.
Okay, one thing that I haven't heard discussed is sight lines trying to cross 395 through the commercial district. North 2nd, North 1st, Center, South 1st, South 2nd, you cannot see to cross the street, whether you're walking, biking, or driving a car. Sight lines are just not there. Why we don't have more wrecks and fatalities, I don't know.
Right?
There, so I think I got those as 395 crossing at where? Is it referencing?
Yeah. Crossing 395 starting at North 2nd, North 1st, Center Street, South 1st, and South 2nd. Basically the whole commercial district.
Got it. Did you, I go back real fast, did you have, when we get into that, if you have a number of those crossings are there, but what you're saying is that you might also want to consider some improvements on this particular.
Yeah, because you can't see.
Oh, sorry, I went back there, they're following me. So if you go back to the slide 23, which is pedestrian system changes, Michelle, there, we have on that map a couple of gray dots. I think in the locations that you're referencing as the existing crossings, but I think I'm hearing is that those might still need some lighting improvements for pedestrians, and we might note those as things to also include in those days today. Is that what?
That's correct. It's just, it's really hard to see because there's, cars that are parked there. So you have to literally almost go halfway into into 395 to see if there's anybody coming. And then it's kind of dicey after that.
It's also dicey on a few other streets around there too.
So from,
Like North Second down through South Second essentially?
North Second to South Second.
South Second, be South Third.
Or South Third
Yeah,
or
South
South,
There's
South
no South
Third.
Second.
South Third, yeah.
Yeah,
Anything past center is south now.
yeah, it's kind of a hot mess.
And then 395 South 9th is also
Oh,
And then
yes.
395 and South 9th is also a problematic area.
Got it. Okay, we'll note those, and that's good to know because there's, when you look at that many crossings together, the best way to approach it from our perspective, and it's just on an ODOT facility, is they need to highlight it for something, a more comprehensive review of
Yeah.
that area. Look at that for thought, and then make sure to incorporate that into the
Thank you, because I don't even know what to do. And I don't want to lose parking spots, and I don't want to have commercial businesses lose, highway traffic for their potential businesses. It's just, I don't have any idea.
Going off of what Tom said, an area that I've noticed is Northeast Street in between Center and about, I would say, North Second to where about Jerry's is, where you basically, again, have to pull out about halfway in the intersection to see if there's traffic coming before you can decide to cross. It's just sightline issues again, because you can't see around the cars.
That's it, Center Street and
No, North E between about, North Second and Center Street?
Is that in front of Jerry's?
In between Jerry's and the edge of the courthouse.
Yeah.
So downtown, where Downtown Cafe, Tom's, Tall Town Biking Camp,
On E Street.
on E Street, yeah.
The street's really bad and traffic is really bad.
Yeah,
People
I
go
get in
90.
traffic, almost altercations every day on that street. And I don't know if we need to change those 2 stop signs to a 4-way stop, which makes sense to me, but.
Well, then we'll run and probably what happened last time, people just ignore one another.
that's behind the courthouse.
That's correct.
Okay, got it. So Brandon, that's right here. We'll make that might be, some intersection changes that we need to know. You're not talking about pedestrians, you're talking about just confusion from a driver perspective on those.
Yes, that's correct. I'm also gonna have, Kevin and Tom go to the online survey and write that out as well, so you can get a clear understanding of what the problem is.
Perfect. I know I've circulated around the courthouse many times and thought to myself, which way am I allowed to go?
Which way am I not gonna get hit? Yeah.
Okay, well that's a good segue actually to the online survey, which I wanted to note. So I think some of you have, which is awesome, but we have LakeviewTSP.com is our project website, and there's a number of notifications going out last week and this week that Michelle and others have been great about helping us get out. And what we're trying to do is get as many people as we can to go to the website and go to the survey that's available there, which walks people through more or less what we provide spots for people to share their opinions, confirm we're on the right track, give them some different ideas, and then anything in between. So feel free to share that with anyone you think might be interested, or even broadly within the channels that you have access to. We're going to have that open until April 12th, so there's still a fair amount of time available for folks to provide their feedback on that. And we've gotten so far 10 responses, which might not sound like a lot, but it's 10 more than we got last time we tried this. And also, despite my interest in it, transportation planning is not necessarily what makes people show up for the big events, unless they have a particular issue they're interested in. So far, I think that's a really good response, and we're hoping to continue to add to that and get more and more input, because at the end of the day, we can sit around and come up with as many solutions that we want, but unless we're confirming and knowing that it helps the issues that the community has, we're not really doing this right. So that is a good start, and let us know if there's anything we can do to help distribute it broadly for any avenues that you know are available. We'd be happy to do that.
Okay.
And then finally, where do we go from here? So let us know your feedback. You can do it a couple ways. If you provided it today, we have it, and we appreciate that. If you have additional thoughts, feel free to send me an email or give me a call. I know Michelle is always willing to relay information. I mentioned the website. If the survey is available, if that's a convenient avenue for you to go in and provide feedback, please do that. And then what we're going to be looking on is taking that input and revising what we have, and then moving forward with our next advisory committee meeting, which we have a tentative date for that we're confirming in May, to bring what we'll call a preferred solution back to this group, which takes this information and puts a finer point on it and gets it one step closer to being what the final TSP is going to look like. And that TSP, we're, after that next meeting, planning to have a draft of it done around the end of June. And then we'll move into, with that, bring it back to this group probably sometime in the middle to end of summer, and then move forward with adoption so that this can be the plan for the town and something that's useful for implementing all these ideas that we've been coming up with. So we're kind of on the downhill slope here, and in the refining and adding and making what we have better moving forward. So that's what we've got. Thanks everyone for your time. Is there anything else before we break that anyone wants to bring up?
No.
Coming to Lakeview as Michael Carter, I want to thank everyone for all the work on this. It's so exciting to see progressive thinking on so many levels. So I know the town, I appreciate that, Michelle, everybody else, the mayor, and everyone, and of course all of you. So thank you for allowing the new kid on the block to attend.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.